Hello, my dudes, and welcome back to the Mikey and the Press Pass podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm David.
Whoa, how's your week?
I had better weeks.
I bet.
My carpet's not happy with me right now, so a lot of I had to get it cleaned after an incident at home. So that was fun. So
Blink twice if you're in trouble.
No, my old lady and I got into a tiff, and she got mad and she threw her phone at me, and it just so happened to hit me in the head. And
Her intent was to throw it at you, and she succeeded.
she succeeded in spades, and she split my head open, and I was bleeding all over the place. And she freaked out about that because she's not used to seeing that much blood.
Well, like at least 1 week out of the month.
Oh, damn. Nope. There was a lot more blood than that. It's probably like a cup of blood, maybe more, maybe almost 2 cups of blood. It was a decent amount of blood. So yeah, now my carpet in my house is ruined. I was surprised it bled as much as it did too. But yeah, that's how it went. Because
That's what happens when you throw objects at people's heads.
yeah,
They'll tend to split people apart.
it's just one of the things. Is like I was telling her. I was like, you see what the crux of this problem is I've been going on you for years to not she'll like shove me or slap me or something, like not on the face, but she'll hit me when she's upset.
Yeah.
And I keep telling her, I'm like, it's not good. Like, it's not a good instinct to like hit me when you're upset. And it really just boils down to the fact that she just doesn't think she can hurt me, which is okay, fair. You're pretty meek. And
It's still not okay to hit people.
no, it's not okay to hit people. But she's just like, I just...
Yeah, the roles were exchanged.
I would be in jail.
Yeah, you'd be in jail, and I'd be like, David, you're a piece of shit. Why'd you do that, bro?
Mm-hmm. And justifiably so. But, we do have double standards. So most people I told the story to, they're just like, oh, yeah, what'd you do? I was like literal victim blaming here. This is literal.
So, when I say it was like, well, what'd you say?
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that was kind of what it was. But no, anyway, if you want, I know I probably gave you the whole story already, but I'll give you everybody else the whole story. I'm not without fault in this scenario.
I was in the kitchen just eating my noodles,
Yeah, and
and she flipped out on me. She's like, "Why are you slurping so
She's
loud?"
like, what are you doing? Fuck you. Although my friend Megan had a pretty funny quip. Because I was like, yeah, I showed her the stain on the carpet. I was like, yeah, that's after it's been cleaned. She was like, geez. She's like, I guess you just don't know how to listen. And I was like, of course, that's why she threw a phone. It didn't dawn on me in the moment, but it was like,
Call a friend, dummy.
It was telling me to listen. No, so what happened was we were down in the living room. So we have 2 floors, right? It's like a duplex or whatever.
And we're gonna make you a sandwich, and you got mad.
I didn't. Do we want to hear the story or not?
Call DoorDash, asshole.
Yeah.
Bam.
No, so I don't remember why, but I was being silly because she was saying I'm really thirsty, and I was like, you should drink some water, and I was like giving her here, drink some water, and I was just being really annoying because I do that sometimes, and she got like really like you're being super fucking annoying. And I was like, okay, all right, well, you're like snapping at me, and I was trying to be cute, but I'm just going to go in the other room now because I don't really want to be snapped at, which fine, okay. But I went upstairs, and I had been drinking a little bit, and I like laid down
that's probably why.
On the bed, and yeah, I'm sure that didn't help. So I had a couple drinks or whatever, and I laid down on the bed, and it dawned on me, it's like sometimes you do things in like a huff. It's like that scene in Fight Club where Marla storms out and then she forgets her coat and she comes back and gets her coat. So I was like, whatever, I'm going upstairs. And I got upstairs and I'm like, I don't have a book or a TV or anything. I don't really have anything to
try to sneak downstairs.
I don't really have anything to do up here. So I just kind of laid down in bed and I was just kind of laying there like, like a fucking Lazarus position or whatever. And I dozed off. And so I was like dozing and then she came upstairs and I don't know, it was like getting on me again. And I was like fucking out.
Yeah.
right? I mean, I could vaguely, like it sounded like someone talking at you from like underwater or something. I could vaguely hear she was talking to me, but I was just like couldn't bring myself to the surface to
I
like.
couldn't be bothered with it.
I just get well, it's like it's sort of like that thing when you're like, you have to pee and you're in bed and you're like for whatever reason your unconscious mind will not like allow you to go to conscious mind to make the decision to pee. You just put it all off, like even though you really have to.
Yeah.
It was like that. Like I could hear like and I could tell there was like some sort of but
It's like the Peanuts with the adult.
Yeah. I just couldn't bring myself to the surface, and I guess she was getting like increasingly worried because she thought I don't know why she thought this, but she thought like I was like having a stroke or something. The irony is she thought I was not okay.
She dude fucking phone at you.
Yeah. So
let me injure you for real.
so she jerks me awake and I'm like, what? Like I'm all out of it. And I'm like, what is the problem? And she's just like, I was really worried about you. Like, what's the matter? Like, aren't you hear me talking to you? I'm like, no, dude, what? Like, no, what? And then I guess she was like really upset that like, she thought I was, I don't know, like being dismissive or ignoring her or something. And which is fair. Women hate being ignored. And then this really, because I just kind of came into the game late, like she was really upset. And so I just kind of was like, I kind of had like this, oh, like, it's okay. Like, it's adorable that you're concerned. But what I did is I just chuckled at her, which she took very derisively. Like it was mocking her concern, which is kind of a hot button for her. And I should know better because pretty much anytime my response to things that amuse me is to chuckle at them.
And plus you just woke up.
Yeah. And I was still like, just like joining the game a little late. And, but I do know that generally speaking, she has this soft spot about being like chuckled at because she thinks it's derisive or mocking. And then, so then she got all mad that I was chuckling at her and I was like going to explain, but I was kind of like still fuzzy because I was waking up and I was, like I said, had been drinking a little bit. I was just like, dude, can you just leave me alone? Like, I don't want to deal with this right now. Just like, go away. Right. And then I just closed my eyes, expecting her just to storm off. But before she did that, she threw her phone at me, hit me in my fucking nugget, and then she stormed off. And I was in bed, and like I was on the one side of the bed, and I like went to like roll over because I was like, oh man, that fucking hurt, right? And I'm like holding my head, and then like right when I'm rolling over, I could feel that it's bleeding, and so I didn't gauge like this where the edge of the bed was because I was like, oh, I'm bleeding, and then I just fell off of the bed because it was really close to the edge, and I fell off, and that like jarred my head more, right? And then my head starts bleeding like a lot, and I was like, oh man. And for a minute I was like, fuck, like I'm losing a lot of blood. I might lose consciousness, right? And I don't want her just sitting down there like stewing, like fuck him, and meanwhile like I'm like unconscious or whatever. And
he's bleeding. Really dead now.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I probably should get downstairs to like let her know that if I like, pass out or something from blood loss or whatever, that maybe, she's do something about that. And so I'm heading down the stairs. I get up and I walk over to the edge. We have 2 flights of stairs with a landing between them. And so I get on the first flight of the stairs and like I'm not really feeling too woozy or anything, but like I can't see for shit. Like there's just so much blood just like trickling out of my forehead, right? That I can't see. And I was like, man, I better like be careful, and I better like make sure again, irony. I go to reach for the hand railing so that I don't fall over.
Yeah.
And I misjudge it because I can't see anything. And I haven't lived in this apartment long enough to like navigate all of it like it with my eyes closed. And I just like missed it, and then I fell down. And then I just kind of was like, you know what, I'm just probably gonna stay here then because
I'll just die here.
I'm just like, yeah. Well, and she heard me fall down the stairs, and so she wheels around the fucking stairs, like I don't know what expecting what, but
fucking asshole.
But like she just sees me like holding my head on the ground, or just like a murder scene, just blood everywhere, and she just freaks out because why would you ever expect to see some shit like that? I mean, you might because you know that, a phone is not something you should throw at people, but so she's like, oh my God,
look what you did to me.
I'm going to call an ambulance. And I'm like, no, don't do that. It's like, it looks a lot worse than it is. It's just like, there's not a lot of like, tissue on my forehead. So you throw something hard with enough force in a very tiny space, a very like a millimeter sized fucking area. All that force is focused on it. It's just gonna puncture the skin, and all the capillaries in my head are just gonna be like, yay! And so it's just fucking bleeding a bunch.
Are you gonna have like a cool Harry Potter scar or something?
No, it's a gash. It's probably about this big. I've got the Band-Aid on it now, but it's probably almost ready to come off. But so that was
Just get a cool one, like.
just like a scar on my face.
Is it true that you just put scars on your face because you're too sexy?
We both went to the same spot exactly at the same time. So there was that, and then so she's been feeling, I don't know, all whatever, very upset with herself, and
I don't know. It's deserved.
I mean, I was just like, what did we learn, right? Like, let's not use violence against each other. It's not cool. I don't do it to you. I've been on you at lower levels of it, right? Don't slap me. Don't like whatever when I'm irritating you. And if you had heeded those lessons, then maybe we wouldn't be here. But yeah, she's not one toward outbursts like that. I mean, she'll say mean words to me if I'm upsetting her, which...
Why'd you make me do that?
Yeah.
Huh?
But this is the first time a woman's ever thrown anything at me and hit me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dodged it pretty good.
Yeah, well, I had my eyes open.
Yeah.
It's easier to dodge shit. Women don't throw very well as a general rule.
Yeah, maybe if you stood right in front of her, she'd miss you.
Yeah. They're just... Most women that I'm inclined to date aren't really good at throwing stuff, but it's because I don't think, maybe if you have some sort of softball training or something, but I don't think a lot of those ladies date men, if you catch my drift. So.
What do you mean? Because they're athletic?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
I don't know why that would matter, but that's weird.
So yeah, I've just been recouping from that. Surprisingly, my head doesn't hurt. Actually, it's kind of more alarming. It's like the top of my head has just been like numb for the last day.
You have the Homer Simpson thing.
I guess.
Got all that fluid in there.
Yeah, it's like you're wearing you're wearing a football helmet inside your own head. Well, I could whack you with this surgically sterilized 2x4 till the cows come home, but well, I have other appointments. Anyway, looks like you found your hat collection.
Yeah, I found one more hat.
Oh, they just like all. I just assumed there was like a big
No.
box
I did find my other hats. Yes, got my other one, my black one.
Yeah, I just assumed they were in a box labeled hats. Big box of hats.
No, it's one of those old school like hat boxes where it's like those big round ones. Like, look at this one.
Is it really?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
No. It's in a box.
I'm not like a hat wearer, so I don't know. Like my old lady has like a hat box.
The old big old floppy hat.
She's got one for that, but then she has another hat box that just has not hats in it, but like hat box. I guess ladies like hat boxes. Sort of like I don't know, maybe
the equivalent would be like those cookies that comes in the tin, but there's never cookies in there when you go to someone's house. It's usually sewing supplies.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like, I don't know about, maybe it's because I smoke cigars, but like cigar boxes and shoe boxes, I find useful, or photo boxes, I find useful for all sorts of shit. And just like cigar boxes and photo boxes are interchangeable. But then like, I don't know, like I just got a new pair of shoes, a new shoe box, and put shit in that. Yeah. I think hat boxes are the lady equivalent of that. They're usually nice, have some sort of little print on them or whatever. They're all cute. Something about Paris or something on them, I'm sure. Flower or floral patterns or some shit, but
live, love, laugh.
Live, love, laugh. In that order. I don't. Whatever.
Got any other cool stuff that happened to you other than head injuries?
I had a lot, but I can't remember any of it currently.
I wonder why.
Is what I did there. It was good times. No, this is kind of a funny story. Did I rant at you last week about the fucking customer that like didn't want to leave when it was closing time?
Yeah.
Man, that dude shot himself in the fucking foot.
Again?
So he did follow up and write an email to one of the owners. Okay?
Oh, I love this.
He followed up. He wrote an email to one of the owners. I come into work today, JR, one of the owners. Not the one that he wrote the email to, but he was like, oh, yeah. He's like, yeah, people were here hanging out last night, and we did our monthly meeting or whatever. Like all the owners like meet once a month because there are lots of ins, outs, what have yous. And he was like, yeah, you're a topic of discussion. And I was like, oh, really? What do I do now, right?
Mhm.
He's like, oh, we're talking about fucking you and Mustafa or whatever his name is. And he was like, yeah, we all agree that you didn't do anything wrong. I was like, yeah, I know I didn't do anything wrong. But he was like, well, he's an engineer. So he's like, your UI could be improved. And I was just like, you know what? No, that's not true either. I was perfectly just flat and level toned, exactly just fucking like reading from a script to the guy. I wasn't friendly to him, but I was in no way rude to him. And as a matter of fact, when he decided he was going to storm off in a huff, I even said, have a good night. And, you know, I told him, he was like, well, you know, I was like, you're free to talk to the owners if you want to do anything, see if they'll extend the hours. And guess what they decided? He's like, yeah, we just decided that all employees are just going to have to lock the door by 9:15. No excuses. All employees across the board.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah. He was like, so we're just, I'm like, look, man, I think it's the prerogative of whoever's working to stay open late. But he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you know, if you guys want to pay them to stay open, he's like, yeah, we really don't actually. We don't make a lot of money actually that last hour, hour and a half or whatever. And so it's really just keeping people happy. But if this is going to happen, then we'll just tell them that the policy is like door is locked at 9:15. I was like, man, that guy's not going to be fucking, well, we always stay late. It's like, not anymore, you don't. So instead of like...
Guess what, buddy? That email you just wrote?
Yep.
Change of policy.
Yeah. Yeah, you affected policy, but you thought that you were going to make me stay later, when in all reality, it just made everyone else kick you out on time. So I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, you probably fucked somebody else over too. Some guy that was like, well, maybe I'll just get a quick smoke real quick. Fucked him too.
Yep, he fucked everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody that likes to hang out late on Friday and Saturday is now like effectively fucked. And I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that's his
nothing.
fault.
I just said like, yeah, you go ahead and call the owner or whatever you want to do, right? You do that. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna. I was like, okay, we'll see how that works out for you.
Oh, geez, it must be nice to have like employers backing up the employees sometimes.
Yeah. It was like, yeah. I mean, I was surprised it didn't come up before. Like, what happened, right? Like, and that's the thing is, it was like, I found it weird that I was like, well, you know, like your UI could be improved. It's like, how the fuck would you know that? You weren't here. Like,
It's his word against yours.
Yeah. There were other people there. Ask them how I treated him. Because even when he left, my girlfriend was like, I was really impressed you were that nice to that guy because he was being a mega fucking asshole to you. I was like, yeah, but we've been around before.
Yeah.
And I know what it is that I'm supposed to do. And I did everything that I'm supposed to do. So he can throw as much of a hissy fit as he wants, but I'm just going to shrug at him. Why would I be upset? I'm not upset. I don't care. Like, he can get mad. And if the owners come back and say, hey, well, you know, we're going to like you to stay open late. It's like, okay, so we're going to stay open till 9 then. Or we're going to stay open till 10 instead of 9. What am I supposed to do if he comes in at 9 and gets a cigar? Same thing. You see, you just kind of kick the can down the road there. And there's no amount of situation that ever does anything unless you just want to pay me to be fucking on call at any given hours. And you pay me time and a half for that shit. Like, fine.
Gotta have like a residency over there now.
Yeah, that'd be great. Whatever. I don't care. Hang out. Babysit chuckleheads all day long. You want to pay me enough money to do it. But that's what he was talking about. I was like, yeah, what is that? West Coast? Like, you stay open late. It's like $250 or something like that. I'm like, yeah, it's in that ballpark. You know, most of that money goes to the employee. He's like, yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, exactly. But so that was funny. I was just like, I just learned that today, and I was like, oh man, that's so funny. That's just like I didn't do anything. Like I just let him.
Yeah, it made your job easier.
Yep.
Made it like 10 times easier.
Yeah.
Oh, but what the fuck? You're just gonna get the guy.
Well, and moreover,
when you lock the doors, like, hey, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Nope, closed.
No, I've done that before too, and I'm surprised those people never complained. Like, where they'll come up at like 9:05 or 9:03, and they can see that I'm still inside, and they'll come in and like knock on the door, and I'll just be like, "I'm closed."
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, come on.
Sometimes I don't lock the door, but like I'll turn the sign over and turn the lights off and all the everything down except the main house light, and be counting out the register and stuff, and they'll just be like, "Oh yeah," like "Oh yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm closed, man." "Oh, I'm just gonna be like 5 minutes." Okay.
Doing what?
Yeah.
We're closed.
I'm not going to be selling you anything because I was just like, I close the register. I literally can't take transactions right now. The system just locks me out right at 9 o'clock. I can't do anything about it. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. It's like some sort of sophisticated math shit that
Yeah,
I don't understand.
They don't trust us.
Yeah, they don't trust us. I can't do anything. So I just gotta go.
City of Fremont won't let us do it.
City of Fremont won't let us. I don't know.
Talk to the county. I don't know.
I had one guy. I was actually kind of surprised because I had one guy who came in, and it was like 5 after. This is back when we closed at 6 on Sundays, and he came in, and he was like knocking on the door, and he was like, "Some cigars," and I was like, "No, closed, 6 o'clock, right?" He was like, "It'll only be like 5 minutes," and I'm like, 6 o'clock, right? He leaves, and he comes back the next week, a little before 6, 10 till, quarter till, somewhere in there. And he was like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, you guys close at 6, right? And I was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, I was the guy that came last week, like 5 after 6. I was like, yeah, I closed at 6.
That wasn't a joke.
Yeah, he got the message, apparently. If you want to get cigars, you get here before 6 o'clock. Otherwise, I'm just not going to let you in. But yeah, I just thought it was funny that it's just always satisfying when people just throw a hissy fit and they just make their lives so much worse for themselves by doing that. It's like, you could have just shut up and you could have just enjoyed, because like the likelihood that I'm going to work a Saturday night or a Friday night really anytime soon, probably not that good. It was a holiday situation. I swapped shifts with the coworker, and you had to throw a tizzy the one day that you didn't get to do that out of like, since I've been working there. And now you just ruined it. And now if that's the policy, now when I go to close on time, they could be like, well, everyone else does it. Like, I can literally say, well, they're not supposed to. They're breaking the rules. So if you want to go snitch on them, you can, and then go make sure that the owners are enforcing that more stringently.
Yeah.
If that's what you want. But you probably don't want that.
Yeah.
So,
how much rope do you need?
Yeah. It's like, here's a bunch more rope. Yeah, whatever. Fuck that guy. Anyway, so I thought that was funny. What about you? What's new in your world?
Just recently promoted my only student to another stripe on his belt. It was kind of a long time coming. I was kind of getting hints from everybody else, like, you should think about promoting him.
What's he get now?
So he has like 1 stripe on his brown belt. So he needs 2 more, and then after you get 3 stripes on your belt, then you're ready for your next promotion to the next belt, which would be interim black belt.
So is it just you as the instructor decide when it's time for a stripe, and then when he gets the 3 stripes, then he tests into the new belt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, there's an interim kind of rank where you're not given the full rank at the time when you're in that interim first.
It's like a beta test.
It's a beta test to see if you're like sink or swim.
Yeah.
Can you handle the material or not? You can always get kicked back down to a brown belt, or you get promoted up.
So you're a little more conservative with it to ensure that they don't get kicked back down?
A little bit. And it's one of those things where it's like my first student, and it's kind of a weird pressure on yourself. Like, you want to have this guy look like a black belt before he's a black belt.
Right.
Because you don't want to have people come over and like, yeah, this guy in black belt.
Yeah. It's like you're the professor just hands out A's. There you go. You get an A. You get an A. You get an A.
Yeah. So the group from LA, the lead guy and his right hand man came up. And then Orlando, the student, was there. He was doing his thing. And he was just recovering from COVID and had like nagging injuries and stuff. And he did pretty well. And they were talking. He's like, yeah, your brown belt looks really good. You know, might be a good time to give him a promotion or something. I was like,
so this is the guy that came up from LA?
Who?
The guy that you're training?
No. It's Orlando I've been training him every week. He's local here.
Oh, it was some outsiders from LA, and they saw the guy that you've been training, and they were like, oh, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I imagine it reflects poorly on you if you're like, if someone is testing and they're constant, like your guys are like, oh, he's ready to test, then he gets busted back down. Yeah. Like if that happened a lot, it would. So I didn't know, like, how many students are in your dojo?
Right now, just 1.
Just 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Him. And so, but there's more than 1 instructor. You're not the only instructor, are you?
Yeah, there's Bob, Christian, and me.
Okay, so it's just the 4 of you then?
Yeah, we're just a small group, and then Orlando's like the lowest ranking guy there.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, for some reason I thought you had more people. Did you used to have like a couple more people and then they didn't like end up panning
Yeah, like
out?
Justin was in our group for a little bit.
Okay.
We had other people, but it's kind of a traditional style. So there's a lot of dropouts.
Okay. Yeah, because I never got the impression that you were like, you had a bunch of people, but I didn't realize it was just like
Very small
the
group.
four of you.
Yeah.
I thought there was like 7 of you ish.
No.
Well, so that's cool. So he got a stripe. How you guys put those stripes on that belt?
It's a cloth stripe, and then you have to sew it on.
You make him do it?
Yeah.
And Mao, did he Mao? Do it now while I watch.
Yeah, it's a funny thing too when you look at like the collection of belts you get throughout the years is like how shitty is your white belt? Like it's all if you look at my fucking
Because you get better at sewing
you
it.
get
Yeah.
better at sewing. It's so shitty. It was like 2 threads in there. I was like, yeah, this is about right.
Well, I would imagine too with martial arts, your manual dexterity gets better too.
Now it's really tough to fucking sew a stripe on because it's like a thick belt. And you gotta.
Yeah, but what I'm just saying, like it's evident that, so my hands are like more dainty than your hands, but given that I know you can shuffle poker chips and do the whole coin thing, I know your manual dexterity is better than mine. I'm sure some of that's from machining, but I'm sure it's that too, that you your tensile strength in your hand and your manual dexterity gets exercised a lot doing martial arts, I would think. Well, and drones too. Man, you do a lot of shit. No wonder you got good fucking manual dexterity. Just like all these things that require fine motor controls, like drones and fucking machining and martial arts. Why am I even remotely surprised? Because I got my little Fibonacci coin.
Yeah.
And I was trying to roll it across my knuckles. I was like, God damn, Mikey can he's got compared to my fingers, he's got sausage fingers, but I can't do it as well as he can. Because
lots of practice.
You would think that with mean, the way my hands are fucking, these claws, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like
you'd be pretty good with card tricks.
Yeah, you would think, but I just, because, used to having my hands in hockey gloves or boxing gloves, and it's just
these mitts.
Yeah, these mitts, right? But I don't have the big meaty paws that go along with it. It's just
yeah.
So, anyway, but well, that's cool. So, how long does it usually take to get a stripe on your belt then? Because it's
typically
sure
about a 3 or 4 months.
Okay, and you're being stingier with it. So why are you the arbitrator of him getting his stripes and not Christian or Bob?
Because it's kind of my role as a junior black. I'm not a junior black belt, but a newer black belt to train somebody else.
Oh, because Christian has a higher degree than you, and okay.
He did the. Christian trained me most of the Q rankings, meaning the color belts, and then Bob taught me everything else beyond that, like black belt and up.
So you guys are the same degree. He just started before you.
Who?
Christian.
No. I am 3rd degree. He's stepping into 5th.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you were on the verge of getting your 4th.
I am. I just
okay.
I don't say I have a 4th because I don't have a 4th.
Yeah, but you're cusping. I remember Bob talking. I'm trying to be in your business, but Bob was talking about. I was like, I think Mikey might be. He's getting pretty close to that 4th.
Yeah,
he's getting pretty close. But in the martial arts world, apparently that means he's only got a year left.
I got 5 more years left.
5 more years before I can test for 4th.
Yeah, but
yeah,
Orlando's not really a typical student because he's an older guy. He has a gang of injuries. He's been put on the sideline, I would say probably I don't even know how many years we've been training, but at least 2 years worth of him on the sidelines because he's had surgery or some sort of injury that happened to him.
He's older than you mean?
Yeah. Well, he's 55.
Oh, okay. So he's pretty old so he probably got into martial arts when he was in his 40s.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
late 40s.
That's a little late.
Yeah. Strong guy. He's just there's some a little bit more finesse when it comes to certain things, and it's something that you got to train out of someone like that.
Do you think that there's a certain age at which, because if somebody's capabilities just aren't there, you can't in good conscience give them a black belt, right? If they just can't do what they're supposed to do. But at some point, don't you think you would run up against just physical limitations of just getting older? And like,
Yeah, you do have to work around that. That's what I've been learning so far. And yeah, there's different roles for different people. If they're planning to be, he's probably going to, like, in reality, he's not going to be third or fourth degree to black belt. That's not enough time for him to get that. I don't think that he has enough interest to do that. I'm not sure. But someone like that, you want someone at least to know the material, able to teach it. Like, I don't want to be teaching the same shit like for like the next 20 years.
right.
You have the lower belts do that. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So the retention of material, execution to the point where, well, like, enough to show somebody and then correct someone if they're showing you what to do or what they're doing. So there's some of those things that need to get worked out.
Yeah, I get you. Is it more exciting to teach someone when they're like fresh and new and everything is like, you start to see their skill set develop really quickly, or when you start to get like they're closer to your level, like picking apart the few things that you can teach them? Is that more interesting to you? Because I've never really taught anybody. I've shown people, like I showed you how to play pool, right? And taught you a few tricks here and there. And every now and again, like I might try to help. But now, like, you're good enough, I figure it's just playing. And generally speaking, like I try to just never, especially because sometimes it's like I just feel like I'm telling you something you already know. Like, oh, well, you could do this or do this. And you're just kind of like, yeah, I know.
Duh.
I was trying to think of something else to do. Fucking idiot. But especially because it's like it's not like I can necessarily execute every shot that I show you that you could do.
Yeah.
Because I know you know the mechanics. But it's like when someone's first getting into pool and you see them getting good, it's like really fun to teach them. But I don't know if it's the same way with martial arts or not.
Yeah, there's different levels of excitement of people like acquiring the skills and refining the skills, like you said. With him, there is a slow ramp up because I'm not really seeing that aha moment hit. I've seen it in other students that I haven't taught, but like I've witnessed them going throughout the years, and like there's an aha moment that happens in between. It's like, oh, this guy really has it.
Yeah.
Right. Something sparked. There's like that connection. Just those two wires just like met, and that current connection is going through. And I think that's an exciting part. Like the acquisition of just the new skills and just getting competent at it. It's fun to see. But when you see those refinements happen, I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, but on one hand, I get that that there's like as you say, a current or an aha moment or whatever. But on the other hand, it's like, man, you have to admire somebody that has the grit if that's taking longer than the average person for something to click, and they just fucking stay with it and stay with it and stay with it and stay with it and stay with it, because they just take the attitude like it's like Morgan Freeman says in Shawshank, it's just time and pressure. You just apply enough time and pressure at something and eventually it'll go.
Yeah, you'll get a diamond out of it.
And yeah, it's like, man, some people just pick up things super quickly, right? Like you picked up pool really quickly. It's like, oh, and I venture to guess that you'll pick up chess really quickly because these things are just play to your skill set. And but like I almost admire people that it's just like they're just not getting something for a long time, but they just keep at it. They just have this attitude like, no, I will get good at this.
Yeah.
Eventually. I'll just wear it down. Eventually, you're just like, kudos to that guy. Because I definitely would have given up by now. I'd just be like, fuck this.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't want to be so stingy with the rankings where you're like, it has to be fucking perfect right now. Like, of course someone's going to quit because they're not getting anything out of it, right? It's like, yeah, I'm just going to get yelled at for like all these years and nothing's going to come of it.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the same time, like you said, you don't want someone to just be like, oh, you're a black belt?
Yeah.
You suck.
Yeah, and I get to put that joke in. It's like, yeah, I remember back in my day, you have to earn your black belt.
That's what we're doing. Okay, yeah, just you get a black belt, and you get a black belt, and you get a black belt. Yeah, that's what's funny about boxing is it really isn't any of that. You're in a weight class, and it's like, oh, I've been boxing for 10 years. Like, oh, have you? We'll just step in the ring and see what's up. It's like, yeah, you don't seem like you've been boxing for 10 years. Like,
no. Yeah, you'll see like especially like really big schools what they have in LA. There's like gradients of black belts that they have there. There's guys that just want to hang out and fuck around with their friends doing karate, and dudes that are really serious about it.
Break some board. Breaking boards.
Crane kick.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you ever been in a bar fight with somebody? No, but like basically the entire Pacific Northwest, all that forest up there is fucking terrifying me, bro. Because I'll be breaking board all the time. It's like, you rule. Single-handedly keeping the lumber industry in business.
And I rewatched The Winter Soldier last night. Still fucking holds up. That was a really good fucking movie, dude.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Speaking of movies, can you believe that Chris Davis never seen the fucking Matrix? That floored me.
That was like, no fucking way.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
I told you my cousin watched that not too long ago, and she's like, it doesn't hold up. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That movie is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, yeah, man, what the heck? I was like, remember, like, the thing we were talking about the other night, I was talking about it, made me want to watch it. I remembered all this cool shit from the movie. It's like, oh, that little fucking cookie scene.
Yeah.
And the fucking, or how when they're actually in the Matrix, everything has, like, that green tinge that the code has. And when they're in the real world, everything has a blue tinge, like, to kind of delineate the worlds, like, visually. Very cool. Lots of very cool stuff like that in that movie.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, talking about how it's all archetypical hero's journey and the pushing into the bowels to defeat the serpent. I was like, man, that stuff is all in there. That movie's so fucking good.
I'm actually surprised Chris didn't know about the hero's journey at all.
Yeah, sometimes it's weird about Chris. Some things you think he knows and you never talk to him about it because you just assume he does because he knows about playwriting and all this other shit. And then like he'll express some curiosity to you, and what's kind of interesting about talking to Chris is, for all of his kind of social tics, if you know more about something than him and he's interested in it, he will take an active interest in it and be like enthusiastic about listening to you, like tell him about stuff and just like absorb it, and like put it in his fucking brain and go and actually learn about the stuff that like you talk about. Like I wouldn't be surprised next time if we come back and we talk to him, like, yeah, man, I was like reading up on the hero's journey. I mean, I don't think he's the kind of guy that would go and like get the Hero with 1,000 Faces and like read it cover to cover.
Yeah.
But he'll go down some sort of like Wikipedia rabbit hole and like learn a little bit about it and help him inform the things he says he'll do. So, but yeah, so it's just weird because you just think somebody knows something like that, and you're like, oh,
I thought they would teach that in high school, like English class or creative writing at least.
Yeah, I learned about it in I think mythology class, but that was an elective that like wasn't part of the core curriculum of my school.
Yeah, mine was creative writing. So
yeah, it seems creative writing, film, just pretty much any sort of narrative structure, playwriting. It seems like they would just teach you these archetypes, and moreover, it's kind of like when you learn about that stuff, you just kind of go like, oh, this is the newest hero's journey story, right? All these things have common archetypical elements, and that's why they're successful. And it's like, can you really believe that this is like so successful? It's like, really? The Hunger Games? You don't see how this just follows this pattern? Like,
they're not writing new rules for it. They're just copying the same old song.
Yeah, His Dark Material is the same way. They put different spins on it and different elements to it, but most of the components are there, just like the components of any good storytelling method, fantasy or otherwise, or just like the components of good writing. It's like I'd be surprised at how frequently.
Really, do we really need the 3-act structure? Yeah. I could probably put 6 and be as good, twice as better even.
Twice as better. That happens a lot when I tell people like that don't read Shakespeare and then they go read Shakespeare. They're like, wow, he's like a really good writer. I'm like, yeah, really good. You want to
that Plato guy? He thinks a lot.
I could sit here and illustrate to you why he's a good writer, why these things make good writing. And when you read books about writing, there's a reason that they point at Shakespeare all the time. I go like, this fucking guy knows how to write. And so, but yeah, it's just weird to me that a lot of people. But then again, I think it's kind of considered pedantic to reference Shakespeare because it's what academic types do to kind of jerk themselves off a little bit and like talk about Shakespeare. It's like, But then again, I don't know. Some things that are canon of great writing, I think, are insufferable. Like Ulysses, how did that ever get to be like the greatest book ever written?
No, is it considered?
by a lot of literary critics. Time Magazine's 100 Greatest Novels of the 20th Century or whatever. Ulysses is number one. It's like Ulysses and fucking Don Quixote. And it's like, those two books I Canterbury Tales, I can't fucking do it. I'm like, this is not good writing. Why do people think this is good? Like, Shakespeare predates this shit. Well, not the Canterbury Tales, but, it predates it by a substantial amount and is significantly better. I don't understand, like, how some of these things get put into, it's like they're
one's a book and one's a playwright, so
right, but
kind of
sure, but good writing is good writing, play or otherwise. I mean, I would actually argue that the one thing that Shakespeare doesn't, or that does, that is pretty annoying, is the whole concept of the soliloquy, right? Like, you just have your characters like talking to themselves. It's like, well, that's kind of not such great writing, right? You should have them in some way illustrate what it is that they're feeling like that whole calculon. You can't have your characters just announce what they're feeling. That makes me so angry.
It's like a modern day, like, or it's like the anime thing, right? Because their budget for animation is so low, but they have to make a bunch of episodes. What they do, they have guys just standing there looking at each other,
and
just like thinking,
narration,
yeah.
But yeah, generally speaking, that's bad writing, right? Show don't tell. That's good writing, but it's a play, so you're kind of allowed it, because if you're writing something that you want to come through, you shouldn't be relying on the actors to convey that. So you should in some way embed it in the dialogue. But I don't know.
I imagine people, the audience back then, I don't know how sophisticated they were, right? Because it's just a bunch of yahoos.
Well, actually, that was the thing about Shakespeare, is he was the writer of like the people. It was like basically Shakespeare at the time. It was
pop art.
Yeah, it was pop art. It was like, lowbrow. That's where the whole phrase "the peanut gallery" comes from, right? Like, and so yeah, not exactly the most educated of audiences, but whatever. I don't know. It's good is good, and like I said, Ulysses, and fucking James Joyce in general, and Don Quixote in general, it's like Chaucer in general. It's just, I don't get it, and it's like you're poo-pooed upon if you think that, like, Hemingway is good writing, or Scott Fitzgerald is good writing. It's like, yeah, I think those things are good writing.
Plebe.
Yeah.
It's like the Gurkha of cigars.
Yeah. Of literature.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
The Gurkha of literature. Yeah, that's kind of the attitude from people that are like serious literary snobs. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's the thing we were talking about with film, is that I think we were jerking off No Country for Old Men because that's a fucking great movie. Or in general, most of Denis Villeneuve's work is like, there's films that, like, the stratosphere of films, you get to, a lot of people that are like film buffs think that, the top layer is like Tarkovsky and like Bergman and Fellini and these like formalistic, symbolic. But I would argue that, like, what the Coen brothers or Villeneuve do is on a level even above that, which is that it's great and substantive, but manage just to parse it back to like simplicity, so it's super easy to understand, and you actually find yourself being confounded why it's so good until you actually see somebody that has some sort of cinematic chops, like tease apart what makes this fucking super super good, and you're like, yeah, it is really good. It's like, you could just, how many video essays have you watched about like why Mad Max Fury Road is good? It's like, man, why is this so fucking good? And then you just like watch it, you're like, oh yeah, that does make sense. Like, yeah, I picked up on that, but like, yeah, I never really thought about this element of it, or whatever is visual storytelling. Because
the video essay is like a perfect like platform to talk about films.
Yeah,
because reading articles and all that stuff is like, okay, maybe you could futz around and kind of explain why it's great, but when you put it on the screen and show you why,
right,
the framing and all this stuff, color, this and that,
what this does, right? Yeah. And it's Coen brothers are a wealth of that, whether it's A Brother Where Art Thou, or No Country, or The Big Lebowski, or any of these films. It's like, why are these movies so good? It's like, that to me, that's the highest level of good. And I think the same thing of literature. It's like, it's simple, it's easily digestible, and then you kind of, it stays with you in some way. I think that's part of the reason that I like, of all of Villeneuve's movies, like, Enemy is like the most, it's not a complicated movie, but it tangles this fucking web in your brain and stays with you, and you just like chew on it and think about it. And like movies that do that for me, like I go back to again and again and again. It's like, man, like Cinema Paradiso is that way, Bicycle Thieves is that way. Like movies that just keep me untangling the web of emotions or web of intellectual discourse in some way, and then figuring out how that intellectual endeavor jives with the more like emotional, like, because visual storytelling is really just evoking emotions on a variety of different levels. And so when you can understand how those two things like stitch together, you realize that like none of this shit is an accident. This is all very, very, very deliberate. But yeah, anyway, speaking of formalistic, this was kind of funny. So after the whole incident with me and Diana, I was like sleeping, and then the next day, like she was in the closet doing something, and I just was like or something, and she was like, "Are you okay? Like, what the hell was that?" And I was like, "Oh, I was having a dream." And I was like, I was having a dream about The Shining, first of all, is what's funny.
Okay.
So, the whole elevator blood, although that wasn't in the dream, but in my brain, I had like come up with this alternative narrative for the film, or it was the film in my brain, whereupon you've seen The Shining, right?
No.
Oh, you're familiar with the concept.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Okay, so it's the part where like Jack is like chasing Danny like toward the end, and in my brain I invented this narrative where like Danny could like tap into the house, like the overlook, and like almost like some sort of, I think maybe it was, could talk about the Matrix too. So he taps into like the house, and he creates all these like simulacra of himself, like these phantoms that like Jack is gonna go whack-a-mole so he can like abscond.
Yeah.
And this was like the whole narrative, and apparently this was like freaking me out in my sleep, and I like jarred awake. I was like, oh, that's an interesting, that would be kind of a cool idea, like for the movie, like a round 2 alternate universe kind of Shining gibberish. But anyway,
Cool.
how's that Dark Prince? Smoking the Dark Prince from Illusion.
Pretty good.
Original documents, A-sized.
Yeah, any of the A sizes, when it reaches about like, I don't know, the last third, that's where it hits. That's where the chef kiss comes in, like all that buildup of the.
Well, that's the thing, is this like, it's a fucking A size with 9 1/4 inches, so that you figure maybe 2 inches of it you don't actually smoke, so then you're down to about 7 inches. And normally, cigars broken down into thirds, it's like an inch or two, but in this case,
Yeah, it's basically
like,
3 Robustos
yeah,
put together.
exactly. So it's like lingers there.
Yeah, it's good so far. Good construction, flawless, like wrapper.
Oh, see, really, mine had a little bit of like.
Oh, yours is a little toothy.
Yeah, it's a little dinged up. Like looks here. It's smoking fine, but yeah, mine looked a little busted up. It's got that kind of veiny Colorado matness to it. It's nice.
Good so far.
But yeah, more or less, it just tastes like an 88. And then usually, like, by the time you get down, I think this is the really good format for this blend too, because there is a lot going on in this cigar that doesn't necessarily get highlighted when you smoke the shorter sizes of it. So it's probably one of my favorite A-size cigars. That and the Manifesto. Fucking that Manifesto.
It's pretty good.
I gotta get some more of those.
Can you even get more? You have to know somebody, or at least.
We got like a fucking stockpile of Metaloni, dude.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know what I got to do to get one. Some people in Aloni were like, "Oh yeah, did you get one of the manifestos?" And I was like, "Where did those come from?" We had a bunch of them. I asked Jeb, like, "What's up with those manifestos?"
Oh, I don't know.
And he was like, "Oh, I don't know. Let me see." And then some customers just had them, and I was like, "Well, that's fishy. What do I got to do to get one of those?" The problem is, I don't want to buy a whole box of Drew Estate shit to get one.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not worth.
That's why it was cool to have Matt show up, like doing events. Like, here, just fucking take this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Fuck yeah.
Anyways, just been kind of. Last week I went to check out 24 Hour Fitness to go work out. I was like, it's about time. They're allowing people to go in. I have no fucking patience anymore for waiting for anything since the lockdown.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of people there. And then it's like, I get done with one workout. I'm like, there's like two other people waiting for that machine or bench or whatever. It's like, fuck this. I just go back here and work out.
Go back right here in the
Yeah, because I have weights here.
Yeah.
And
Weights with no weight.
what? Yeah,
No.
weights with no weight. There
Weights
you
with
go.
no weight.
So it's like, what's the point if I'm because for me, I generally get a workout done within 30 to 45 minutes. I don't fucking talk to anybody. I just in and out. I'm only here to work out, not socialize. I'm not on my phone looking at fucking Instagram or anything like that. I'm in and out.
Yeah, that's usually about how long it takes me to work out.
Yeah, do some cardio if I'm feeling frisky. But yeah, I was not having it. And especially all the restaurants are opening up, and I was like, maybe I should sit in a place and eat there. And it was like the wait's like 5 minutes long. I was like, I'm not waiting.
I'm just, what is this shit?
Yeah.
I just can't. Oh my god, 5 minutes? What? Where do you get off? It better be the best burger I have ever had. It's waiting 5 minutes.
5 minute bullshit.
Yeah, I tried that I Am burger.
How is it? I always see that place. No, really. No smash burger.
It's no smash burger. It's no Shake Shack. Both of which are better. But it's like, it's in the same ballpark, Shake Shack, Five Guys, smash burger.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the lowest rung on that ladder. And the burgers weren't expensive, I will say that. They were pretty modestly priced, but yeah, I didn't really, whatever. Like I was perfectly content to have it, but I didn't leave me wanting to be like, I'm gonna go back to this place.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
All right, let's go switch to news. Got any cool stories?
Yeah, did you hear that, actually it was kind of, one of the stories I had was weird because I was just reading this article in the New Yorker about North Korea and their like cyber terrorism.
Uh-huh.
And so like, as I always wondered, I was like, man, where the fuck does North Korea get all this fucking money from?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's only so much you can just like tax to death a destitute population of people that don't have freedom, that they can't really.
I think they ship out people to other places as slaves.
Yeah, that's But then I was reading something. God, let me see if I can find it. That the Colonial Pipeline. It's like this big oil pipeline that like connects a lot of like, up to New England, like in the eastern part of the United States. And they just got hit by a fucking cyber attack. I was just reading this whole in-depth article in the New Yorker about like how they actually do that and like how they're getting increasingly audacious. This article is from like last week.
Where are they getting these computers?
Well, in the article is what's interesting is what they say is that like, yeah, very, very few people have access to computers, but basically what happens is that they train these people, and then a lot of them like go to the math Olympiad or whatever, like the big international math competition.
Okay.
And then they get kind of recruited to work for the government to basically just be cyber terrorists. And part of the crux of the article in the New Yorker was talking about how that's a big waste of like talent, and how some of these people, like they get that good at coding that they can launch these cyber attacks like on basically on computers that have never been hooked up to the internet.
Okay.
Like they've never even like been on a computer that's been on the internet, and they're that good at coding.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like, by most accounts, like it's still predominantly like Russia and the United States, like all in China, like those three places are like the best programmers in the world come from there. But a lot of the North Koreans, they win like silver like medals in the Olympiad. And the article was detailing, one of the guys at the end of the article was talking about how he had done well, and he was done well in the math Olympiad. And it was basically known that he had done well like a couple years in a row. Like he won a silver medal when he was like super young, like 14 or 15 or something in the math Olympiad. And then he came back the next year when he was like 16 or 17, and he did like equally well. And then there was all this, like he got this inkling that like the North Korean government was going to recruit him, which basically just for him, you don't politely just say like, oh no thanks, I don't want a job doing that. Right? Basically they just own you. They just put you somewhere and you just like launch these attacks, and it's just like they take you from your home and they put you in this centralized area. Sometimes not even in Korea. They'll put you somewhere else in China or Japan or something. and keep a close eye on you and basically just, just at gunpoint, just program fucking things that are bad. And malware mostly. And so he got
Malware?
Yeah. Malware. Mao-Ware. Different communist regime, but I see what you did there. So fucking stupid.
That's the title of the show. That's the title of the show.
Malware.
Malware.
But he got an inkling that they were going to do that, and so he defected to South Korea. And like,
now you make Samsung stuff now.
Yeah. But it was funny because they were talking about how when they first started doing some of these cyber attacks, it was just kind of like then President Obama was reluctant to kind of call them cyber attacks, like cyber terrorism, like when they the whole with the Interview movie, that Seth Rogen movie.
Yeah.
And the whole
Sony thing, yeah.
Yeah, that was like, they were just like basically acted like it was hijinks. It's like, no, they like hijacked like serious information from like a fucking American studio. Sony, no less.
Yeah.
And everyone just kind of like, oh, well, they were, their shenanigans, basically. It was like, I don't know why we're not calling this. And then it's just been getting increasingly more audacious, where they've just been doing, and it's difficult because unlike, terrorist groups that commit terrorism like in the real world, not like on the digital space or whatever, they're not likely to like claim like, hey, it was us, we did it.
Yeah.
American pigs, like they're just like, oh, whatever, just money. And this is exactly what happened to this oil pipeline. They did, what do you call that? Where they basically just like freeze up their systems and they just like ask for a ransom.
Yeah, ransomware stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So they just did that. I was just reading it today. I was like, wow, that's like, so it got me thinking, I was like, so fucking North Korea, like how much of this shit like that we don't know about, like it's just North Korea.
Yeah.
Like, apparently they make just billions and billions of dollars every year doing this shit. Doing like, these ATM scams and shit where they like, have all these people go off to 7-Elevens and like take a certain amount of money out. And then like the little bag man or whatever, the GTA 4 guy, like he keeps like, X%, and then it gets kicked up and it gets kicked up, and then the rest goes to government. So yeah, that was I don't know. I didn't know a lot about the inner workings of that shit. And then it just kind of dovetailed where I just saw it in the Wall Street Journal today that they, like somebody is holding it and they were like, oh, it shouldn't affect, unless it goes on for like more than like 5 or 6 days where it's froze up, it shouldn't affect oil prices or whatever. But let's hope not. Like, we're far enough west, maybe it won't, but fuck, we're already over $4 a gallon here lately. So it's like, fuck that. So anyway, what you got?
Pentagon tracking out of control Chinese rocket that could re-enter Earth's atmosphere. So basically, China is setting up their own space station, and the main rocket that should just like fall off in the lower part of the atmosphere and just drop into the ocean just flew into space. And
whoops,
they're like, oh, that's not supposed to happen. And and it's just been floating out there, and they're predicting either within the next couple days is going to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and crash down. And they're not sure where it's going to go. They have no idea. They're basically saying they'll figure it out within an hour where it's going to hit, but they don't know where it's going to go. Most likely, it's probably going to hit the Pacific Ocean.
Pacific Ocean.
But they're not sure. They have no idea where it's going to land.
Wow.
That's fucking scary.
That's once you zap it with Star Wars, bro.
Yeah, they were saying that. I was like, no, we have no plans to do that. Most of it's probably going to burn up, but we don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
They're like, they showed like the globe and like, where's it going to hit? ? And that's it.
Somewhere on the planet. Yeah, well, that's somewhat troubling. But, the good news is that most of the planet is uninhabited. So, the likelihood that it'll hit nothing is
most likely
pretty good.
High percentage.
But you never know.
What else you got?
It would. I was trying to find my other one here, but I'll give you my funny one instead. Baby born with 3 penises makes medical history.
Double dick dude, move out the way.
Diphallic dude, you've been knocked down. Good things come in threes? An Iraqi boy no doubt etched his name into the Phallic Hall of Fame after he was born with a whopping trio of penises. To the best of our knowledge, this is the first reported case with 3 penises, or triphalia, wrote Dr. Shakir Salim Jabil in a study on the treble member dyke published in the International Journal. Hey, stop it. Stop notifying me. The baby boy, a Kurd from Duhok, is that how you say that? I don't know. Was originally brought to the hospital by his parents when he was 3 months old due to the swelling of the scrotum. However, when he arrived, doctors observed that he had some extras. 1 2-centimeter member sprouting near the root of his primary penis, and another 1 centimeter long schlong situated under his sac. The Hydra-esque anomaly was particularly mysterious.
Who wrote this article?
As the child hadn't been exposed to drugs in the womb and didn't have a family history of genetic aberrations, study authors reported. Alas, it seemed that the boy's potential future as the world's first three-pronged porn star was nipped in the bud. Since 3 Willie's additional phalluses don't have urethras, the tube that the urine can pass through, doctors decided to surgically remove those 2. Fortunately, the operation went swimmingly, and the former triphallic tot was deemed problem-free during a follow-up appointment a year later, per the case report.
1 human horn.
A similar instance of triplet nether regions made headlines in India in 2015, but couldn't be verified as it wasn't documented in a medical journal, the Daily Mail reported at the time. However, despite the boasting the only recorded case of triphalia, the latest case study isn't the only multi-membered kid out there. First reported in 1609, the condition diphallia, or sporting a pair of penises, reportedly affects 1 in every 5 to 6 million baby boys, with around 100 recorded cases reported in literature, according to a new study. And unlike the latest penile patient, some of those akimbo organs can reportedly both ejaculate and urinate, suggesting that 2 heads might indeed be better than 1. In fact, one anonymous soul dubbed Double Dick Dude went viral in 2015 after it was revealed that he boasted dual 10-inch long functioning penises.
I didn't know they were that big.
Apparently. Doctors have yet to pinpoint the cause of the phallic deformity, but they have linked it to other congenital aberrations, such as being born with 2 scrotums or anuses, according to the World Health Organization. So that was, diphallic dude, man. Like, that guy. He fucking... Yeah, so I think his crown is pretty safe. Mm-hmm. Especially, like, how does one person get 20 inches of dick? Like, that's really unfair. It's not just like he's got 2 of them.
Yeah, like a dude with like a micro dick's like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Come on.
You're just like, that's where all the extra dick in the world went.
Yeah.
To that guy. It's like, fuck, man.
Okay. California's population fall, first ever yearly decline.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Friday, the state's finance department said the population now stands at just below 39.5 million residents, a drop of 182,000.
That's not that many, but I mean, that relative to what, 40-some million people in the state. But
mm-hmm. Yeah, they're saying that the decline was due to the lack of migration towards the state, like foreign students, people traveling for jobs and all that things. Plus, there's a decline in birth rate in California too.
Well, yeah. Men here have no fucking testosterone. That's why.
Well, I don't know why you say that.
Actually, I take issue with that, sir. Could you maybe just...
Point of privilege here. Hey. That's not true.
Hey, cut it out. Is that some sort of Michael Cera voice?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. That's probably true. No, what's like, I'm like actually surprised that it isn't higher than that. Like, is it 183,000? What was it? What percent did you say it was of the population?
Let me see. What is the rate? A decline of 0.46%.
So not even
1%.
Not even 1%, right? It's like
almost 0.5%.
I would have thought more. I would have thought, given the last 6 months, I would have that would have been curious to see how much has been in the last like 4 or 5 months, as other states begin to open and stuff like that.
Yeah, we lost the seat in the House. right? And Texas probably gained one, I'm guessing.
I'd have to guess. A lot of people moved to Texas and Florida. Yeah, they were having some problems with that, like in a lot of these quaint New England towns and shit that were like towns of like 20, 30, 40,000 people and shit. And you get people coming from California and people,
Hey!
yeah, and they're buying up these fucking houses. There's
Yeah.
an influx of them with all this like income, and their fucking their rents and everything just like went up at like, because it's, you know, in a small population like that, it only takes like a few hundred people with a lot of money
Yeah.
moving in to just like noticeably increase the amount of like rent you're paying.
Yeah.
And people get irritated. It's like that phenomenon in you know, any kind of city, like especially if there's adjacent areas that aren't necessarily gentrified to, like, you see this a lot in Detroit. Like there's some neighborhoods, or like I'm sure it's like the case in like Brooklyn and Philly and shit like that, where you go to these areas that aren't gentrified and they have like these really great little hole in the wall restaurants, and you'd never fucking know about them unless you talk to locals, because the locals don't want you going there and
Yeah.
making their $4 sandwich fucking $12 in like the course of a year because it's so awesome. You know, people are like, oh my God, like it's so good, just skyrocket the prices. And like, nope, we're just going to keep that shit to ourselves, right? Like, I'm not going to let you do that. So,
Yeah, there's this great little TikTok video I saw about the current state of not retail, of houses, where this guy has an apple. It's like, oh, you got an apple there? Yeah, I got an apple. It's like, can I see it? It's like, no. It's like, I start the bid at $5. $5. I bet 10. It's like, what's the deal? Well, it's like, dude, I've never seen an apple yet. The guy comes in, is like 50 grand. It's like, what? It's like, oh, I'm from California.
yep, that's kind of how it goes. Like when I went to buy cigars in Chicago, I bought some of these, and I was like, hey, how much are... He's like, can I just buy as many of those dark princes as I want? It's like, yeah. I was like, how much are they? He's like, they're like $13.
What?
I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take a couple of those. I was like, oh, and you have Epernay's too? And he's like, yeah, they're kind of expensive though, like $16, $17.
You're like, ha.
And I was just like, I'm from California. And he was like, oh, okay, never mind. It's like, I can't even imagine like what a cigar like that goes for. Like, not, this is Chicago too. It's not like Chicago is fucking cheap. Everything's expensive there.
Not California expensive.
Apparently not. Jesus fuck. It's like, yeah. I told you about my uncle talking about that, like eating out, when he like sent me the sous vide machine. We were talking about it. And he was like, man, yeah, I got a sous vide machine. And, you know, I had to put my butcher box on pause. I was like, oh, you don't butcher box anymore? Because, you know, for the viewers, like I order my meat in the mail, like through a subscription service that my uncle turned me on to.
Promo code Mikey in the Press Pass.
Promo code Mikey in the Press Pass to save 0%. Actually, charge you more. Actually, I think we made that joke before, so I think I did say something about butcher box.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he was talking about, he's like, yeah, dude, I don't fucking cook anymore. And I'm like, but like,
It's so cheap.
he was like, yeah, it's just so
I'll be losing money if I don't go out to eat.
He's like, I'll go to a bar and I'll get like a fucking steak sandwich with fries, a big ass steak sandwich. I take half of it home and eat it for lunch tomorrow, and a bunch of fries, and I'll have like 4 beers. And they'll be like, oh, that's $23. He's like, yeah, I had all the beers too. And he's like, yeah, so it's $24. He's like, are you kidding me? Like, if I go to the store and I get this things to make this, and I get a 6-pack, like I'm gonna be out like $18, $17.
Yeah.
He's like, that shit's not cost prohibitive enough to stop me from doing that. Like, I don't have to cook. I don't have to fucking clean up. I got leftovers for tomorrow, and I got beer. Like, why would I not do that? Like, just like all the fucking time. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I get it. It's because you make a Chicago income in fucking Kalamazoo, Michigan. Vicksburg, Michigan. Not even Kalamazoo. It's like a podunk fucking town, right? You might be the richest guy in Vicksburg, for all you fucking know.
Mr. Fancy Pants from the city coming here and eat our steak sandwiches.
Yeah, kind of. Because in Vicksburg, I got like, median income in Kalamazoo, Michigan is probably somewhere around the median income for the country, which for those of you in California that don't have a baseline for this shit,
$100,000.
It's about 40 to 40. I think it's $44,000 or $45,000. So generally speaking, in Kalamazoo, like you're doing pretty well if you make like about $50K a year. And so
that's household income.
I think it's just a median individual income.
All right.
Maybe it is household though. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard like places like in the Midwest, like 60,000 for a household is like the average.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. When they do median income, is it per household or is it just per individual? I never
I always
know.
thought it was household.
Then that's what it is.
Okay.
The median income nationally is about $46,000, and it probably mirrors that in Kalamazoo. So the amount of people that you have that make six figures, which is like more than double that,
Hmm.
is a very, very small percent of people. You go out to like a more rural area like fucking Vicksburg, city of like a few thousand people. I got to imagine like, yeah, he might just make more money than anybody in the whole city of Vicksburg.
This guy's a mayor.
Yeah. Wow, Dad, you look like James Bond.
Oh, I forgot to add this to what I've been doing or watching, but David Chappelle was on Joseph Rogan's podcast experience.
Yeah, I heard that Rogan got a little bit of hot water for some shit he said about the vaccine. I
Yeah.
didn't really get the details. I heard it kind of secondhand from my old lady.
Oh, well, he's basically saying that, like, if you feel like if you're a healthy like 18 to 20-year-old, he thinks it's not necessary to get the vaccine.
Right.
Yeah, but my argument would be you kind of should, because like it's not just about you, right? It's the people that you affect around you.
Sure.
So
I mean,
if you want to make the argument if you're a healthy young person, yeah, you probably don't, but you kind of have to think a bigger scope than yourself when it comes to that. And that's the argument I would make, but those are two different arguments.
yeah, I mean, it's risk assessment, right? So it's like it depends on who you're interacting with. If again, I don't know what he said. So if he said something like, if you're young and healthy, you're probably not at very high risk of seeing a catastrophic result from getting COVID, then that's perfectly reasonable. But that would be different about whether he thinks that you should do it because, it's like Bill Burr said, like, I'm not going to sit here with no fucking medical degree, talking to you with no medical degree, smoking a cigar in front of an American flag and pretend like we fucking know anything about science because we don't.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this just crystallizes my fucking problem. We were talking about the tinfoil hat shit last week, but anyway, so did he say that to Chappelle then? Was that podcast that he said that?
No. That was 2 or 3 podcasts
Okay.
before that. But it was good to have Dave Chappelle on. That dude's like a wise dude. It's very much like I feel they're fairly on the same kind of like level of fame and notoriety.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like Dave has a little bit more insight because he talks to normal people. Like Rogan talks to people, but that's under the guise of his show. People come talk to him.
He doesn't talk to normal people, though.
Yeah. I think Dave Chappelle has like a kind of the pulse of normal people.
Yeah.
He like lives in bumfuck like Iowa or
Ohio.
Yeah. And he lives amongst the people.
Yeah.
And he's very kind of even keel about all these things.
Yeah, it's part of what makes his comedy so fucking good.
Yeah, he still has incredible timing because he said like a few throwaway lines. I was like, "Fuck, man, that guy's so fucking funny."
Yeah,
yeah.
He's It's funny too because you saw him on there, and like you see the little thumbnail. It's like all in black and white, and like just watching the verbiage of Rogan, like since they started doing shows together, and like at first it was like, oh, me and Dave are gonna like do a show, and then like watching his like language evolve, it's like pretty clear that they're becoming like better friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like since COVID, like you're seeing them just kind of, oh yeah, come on the podcast again, man. We'll do these shows and and it's just like it's just kind of cool to see like Bert Kreischer and Bill Burr have become better friends too.
Yeah,
and it's kind of cool to see those friendships evolve because comedy used to be all about the circuit and you all just kind of know everybody a little bit, but now it's like they've kind of had to silo off, and so they're getting to know a few comics like really well.
Yeah.
And so I think that I didn't listen to the Chappelle podcast yet, but I'm sure it's probably pretty good because just anything with fucking, like I said, Chappelle was on Howard Stern like 20 years ago for like a week straight, and I was just like, that's fucking Howard Stern, right? It's all just like dick and fart jokes all day long. But I was like, fucking Dave Chappelle's out here for a week, I'm gonna listen to this every day.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Is apparently he's gonna have another. He's producing another, or Dave Chappelle's producing another podcast with the guys from Black Star, Talib Kweli, and Mos Def. I forgot what he changed his name to, but they're gonna do. It's more a produced show. I guess they have like musical acts in between.
Wait, Mos Def changed his name?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yasem Bain, I forgot, something like that.
Oh, why did he do that? That's weird.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, him and Mos Def been friends for years though, since like that fucking Def Comedy Jam days and shit.
Yeah.
So,
Man, really enjoyed that one. That just came out of nowhere because Dave Chappelle was talking about being on the podcast again, and there was no like lead up to it. It's like Dave's on the podcast, like, oh, fucking awesome.
well, yeah, he has that inside track now, so pretty much anytime he wants to be on the podcast, and Rogan knows that like anybody else, people just listen to Chappelle talk fucking all day.
Yeah. Oh, and in the whole deal with him and Viacom, Comedy Central, he made a really good, or Rogan made a really good point of like, you always hear artists gripe about being fucked over by the industry, not getting their paid due.
Yeah.
Dave's the only person that I could fucking think of that got his payback. And
he was vocal about it.
Yeah.
You know, which, you know,
it's like, I did my fair share. I just wanted to be paid the same, or what I was, what I did.
Yeah.
And people are like, yeah, Dave, you're right. You should be paid what you're owed.
Yeah, well, it just goes to my axiom, just don't do free work. That doesn't go for, I mean, it goes for a janitor just as much as a comedian or a rocket scientist. Like, don't do free work. You do work, you should be expected to be paid for it. Or it's not fucking work, right? It's volunteering.
Yeah.
It's like, and like, I'm not shitting on volunteering if that's your jam, but if it's...
No, but that's the guise of like, I am volunteering my time to do something.
Right, don't do it under the guise of work.
Like,
you think you're...
I'll pay for. I'll pay you.
You think you're doing work. This fucking happened to my brother, man. My brother, I cannot believe it. It makes me ashamed that he's in my fucking family when I heard this story. Ashamed.
I have no brother.
Yeah. So my brother Jason is like, he's kind of the meek one in our family. Which, not to be construed for like he's some sort of pussy or something. He's just not very like outspoken or assertive. And my dad was telling me this is years ago, but like he was doing some landscaping work for some guy. And the guy was like, yeah, come on, do the work, and then like, and I guess there was some complication, like when he first come time for him to get paid. And my brother just kept working for the guy for like 3 months without getting paid.
What the fuck?
And then like that all fell through. And my dad just had this attitude like, yeah, dude, I don't think he's gonna fucking like put that guy's feet to the fire to pay him. He just worked for free for that guy for like 3 months. Fucking landscaping is hard work too, man. Yeah. It was in July in fucking Michigan. Shit is brutal. And so, yeah, he just like did like, I mean, maybe he ended up getting his money eventually, but it was like, man, I just can't even imagine a scenario where that would fly. And I can't even imagine, my dad didn't even seem to give him the business. It's like, that's your son. Like, what would you do to another man who didn't fucking pay you for 3 months of work? I can't even imagine that guy.
It could have gone either two ways, right? Like, you tell your son, get paid, right? He doesn't do that. He's like, well, you got to learn your lesson somehow, right?
Yeah, but we're not talking about someone like Diana's brother's age. My brother's only 5 years younger than me. He's fucking in his 30s.
Yeah.
And he's been working since he was 17, 18 years old. Like most Midwesterners do, get a job like either right in high school or right out of high school. It's not like in California, people just like be in their fucking mid-20s without a job living with their parents. That shit doesn't fly in the Midwest. Like, you get a fucking job and get out of my house. Like, get the fuck out of here. Right? It's not like, I don't know, California parents do seem to have a different temperament where they like, I don't know, maybe it's all the multi-ethnic stuff, like Hispanics and Asians are just more family oriented. It's predominantly white people in the Midwest. And like most people be like, if
this baby has his own job, look at this baby.
Yeah. it's like, and it's twofold, right? It's like, you want to get the fuck out of there, like, because you want your independence and you're trying to smash, right? And you want to have your own space. And your parents are like, get the fuck out of my hair, right? Like, go get a job. You're fucking 8 years old already, for Christ's sake, like, what are you doing? And like, so you just like, it's a mutual split. You just fuck off as quick as you can. And so maybe it has something to do with like all the Asian, Hispanic, like multiculturalism or something out here.
I don't know, because I moved out when I was like 20, 21. So it's a little boomer for you, but
I was, a little bit. Like, I remember I didn't move out. I was damn near 20 years old by the time I moved out of my house. And I didn't get a job until I was 18. And like everybody I knew acted like I was a fucking bum. Like, I didn't have a job in high
Still
school.
live with your parents, man.
Man, aren't you almost 20? You 19, ain't you, dog? Like, what you doing?
Balls drop or what?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, they didn't say that because, you know, most of my friends are sissies, but but yeah, I was like, they just did that shit. You know, they all had cars and like jobs and like they're all fuck. I had a girlfriend that like moved out. She moved out of her parents' house when she was 15.
Fuck.
She was like, I'm fucking out, right? She just moved out.
You're still a child.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, how did you manage that? And she's like, well, it was tough for the first year. I kind of had a coke problem. And then, but once I kicked the coke problem, it was all right.
Who knew? All that money fucking going to coke.
Yeah.
You can pay your rent with it.
It was like, yeah, it was that. And that's what was weird is that gals like that were attracted to me because she was like 19, but she had lived like what you would say like a life to like your late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
Right. She had been through some shit, man, and was appropriately fucked up as a result. But it's like she liked me. It was like I didn't have a job. I live with my fucking parents. I was still in school.
So you're the sugar baby.
And it was like, no, she didn't take care of me or anything like that. But it was just like yeah, like oh, you want to hang out? I was like, I'd really like to, but I don't have any money. So you can come over here and I'll fuck you, I guess, if that's what you're into. And turns out she was. So that worked out well for all of us. But yeah, it was just like, yeah, I was almost 20 years old when I moved out, and like, yeah, that's your. Just get out of my house, man. That's like, it's like a different version of get off my lawn, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just fucking get out of my house. Like,
I had a buddy, his brother was living with him, and he was like, his brother was like engaged to get married. It's like, why are you living here?
mm-hmm.
Go away.
Yeah. Well, to be fair too, and maybe California parents are a little more responsible about this, but like, people in my family, at least in the white trash spectrum of Midwesterners, they just have babies like really fucking young.
Yeah.
So as you might imagine, you think like, you know, someone in their 50s or early 60s probably doesn't mind having their like 25, 26, 27-year-old kid around, right? But this has never been explicitly stated, but I feel like when you have kids really young, you have kids at 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and they're old enough to get out of the house. I mean, you're not even 40 yet.
Yeah.
You're like, I got a lot of life left to live,
Yeah.
and I'm going to get on fucking living it. I did my part for society.
Yeah.
You fuck off now. Right? I made more people. That's what I'm supposed to do. And now you just go out into the big world and make more people.
Yeah.
and I'm going to live over here like a normal person. Like, can you imagine being our age and having like a 20-year-old kid?
Yeah.
Because that's the common thing in my family.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's mom had a kid when she was 13, and my dad got my mom pregnant when he was 15. And I was trying
that's crazy to think that. Yeah.
my aunt Rhonda or my aunt Pam might be the only person that I know that was even approaching 30 when she had her first kid. She was like 27, I think.
Oh, old maid.
Yeah. Everyone else was like teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were like, if they made it to 20, it was like, all right,
Yeah.
you know what a condom is. Nice. It's like, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I get that. You know, if you're in your 40s or 50s, and you're just kind of like, oh, I'll just sit here. It'd be nice if my kids were around. But like, yeah, my family wasn't that way. They were like, yes, I'm still young as fuck. Get out of here so I can have girls over your age.
Yeah, it's insane to think that like we would have like straight out of high school, it'd be like kid would be 20, right?
Well, yeah, it was like fucking like that dude we knew at the pool hall, Josh.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, that's your daughter? Like that's weird because you're younger than me, and I don't look at her and be like, oh, she's too young. And you're like, oh, she's kind of cute. Like, she's like, yeah, that's my daughter.
I got 5 of them in my home too.
Yeah. So she's the oldest, right? I got like fucking 6 more. They're all just in the fucking queue. Started having babies at 14, and I just didn't stop.
Brood.
Yeah. Like, God, dude, seriously? Like,
What do you say? The condoms don't make me feel the same.
just take the sensation away. Because, yeah, I was teasing him. Because I was like, Dad, how old is your daughter? He's like, she's 22 or 23. I was like, dude, don't you know what a fucking condom is? He's like, it just takes all the sensation away, man.
I don't know. I never used them.
Doesn't feel as good. It's like, yeah, I don't know if like just on paper you could make that proposition to me. Like, maybe it feels 5,000% better, but then you're just in for this lifetime commitment from this point on. Like, yeah, no thank. I'll just take the not as good thing.
Yeah.
You know, like if someone said, "Oh, do you want a steak?" And you're like, "Yeah, I would love a steak. I love steak, right? A great ribeye." Every time you eat one, we're just going to chop one of your fingers off. You'd be like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to ever have a steak, actually, ever. I'll just never do that.
Uh-huh.
I'll just get used to chicken. It'll be great. I'll be fine, right? This finger's more important than steaks. But apparently some people feel differently. Apparently. Get it? Parent.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, how's that cigar, though?
Yeah, it's pretty jamming. You got any other news?
That's about it for me.
Yeah. Did you hear that Tesla is like trying to buy a town?
Okay.
Not Tesla, SpaceX specifically. Elon Musk SpaceX is buying up a Texas village. Homeowners cry foul. Come on. You know I subscribe to you, Wall Street Journal. You will let me read this. In echoes of Old West, the Tesla CEO's rocket firm has been building a company town in seaside Boca Chica, pressuring locals to sell their properties.
Florida?
No, Texas.
Oh.
In autumn 2019, this looks like a big feature article. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to read the whole article because it's Wall Street Journal Saturday reporting or whatever. But yeah, that sounds like a thing that they're going to do. Just fucking buy shit up and just why not? Just can buy anything now, right? So I don't know. SpaceX needs a town.
I bought a person to shoot up into Mars.
Yeah.
His name's Gary.
No, it's cool. Like he
wants to go.
He wants to go.
We're paying him in Tesla stock.
Yeah, paying him in Tesla stock. That I don't think he knows how time works because when he gets back, anyway.
Yeah, whatever. We'll hammer all those details out.
I had another story too. I can't remember what it was at this point though.
Oh.
Everything's fuzzy all of a sudden. Trouble with my memories. Head hurts a lot.
I'm trying to find an article. There was this big hubbub about Diego Sanchez. He's one of the cast member of the Ultimate Fighter Season 1. He had like a...
Dirty Sanchez, yeah.
Yes. He just got recently let go from the company. And it's kind of apparent that the guy that's like his coach, manager, fucking like nutritionist, and this guy that plays 5 roles for like a whole team of people is this one person. And it's very clear this guy's a cult leader.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, dude.
All right, it's the tinfoil hat section of the podcast.
Like even the way that Diego Sanchez explained like when he met this dude, he was like going through a divorce, lost a couple fights, was like depressed. And this guy just pops up in his life and he's like, yeah, he's like a counselor to me. And he's like, he really knows who I am. And I really believe in the system that he's doing and all this stuff. And like, if you look at the background of this guy's a charlatan.
Yeah. Talks
about like creating these systems and curing these people of these illnesses and like
systems of what though?
Of martial arts. Like I forgot it was like the art of self-awareness, but the guy's like the least self-aware person I've met. And like he always, whenever Diego Sanchez comes up, this guy pops up, and he always wants to talk about how the media is like bashing him for being weird and being
the cult leader or
the
Sanchez?
Cult leader.
Okay,
cult leader. He always like injects himself into the conversation. Like no one's talking about you. We're talking about Diego Sanchez, the fighter. Yeah. No one gives a fuck about you. We don't know who you are. Why are you qualified to do any of this stuff?
So he's just like in his periphery then, like just in the orbit of Sanchez.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking.
And it's always fishy that like now people are kind of thinking that his like social media accounts are being run by this one guy. And whenever he has like an argument with like commentators or anything like that, like it's Diego Sanchez, but it's really the guy typing it for him.
Oh, that reminds me of my other piece of news. But finish your thought.
So yeah, it's just super crazy that this fucking everyone's telling him, it's like, dude, this guy's crazy. He's a cult leader. He's brainwashing you. It's like, no, you guys don't understand. Is the media is just throwing like all the shit at him, and it's really not like that. And then it is.
You have to like appreciate. I mean, not that cult leaders aren't scummy, but in general, they tend to go after people that are like, it's like we were talking about with the high cost of failure and stuff. So it's one thing to like get a bunch of fucking rubes or get a bunch of soy boys or something to fucking be under your thumb and like create a cult that way, because they're all from affluent Silicon Valley families, and or you know, Nexium or WeWork or any of that. Like those people, that's one thing. But you almost have to admire the balls that it's like, dude, do you realize what will happen to you if this guy ever like has the wool pulled out from over his eyes and realizes what you've been doing to him? Like, you're just dead.
Yeah.
Like, it would just be like trying to recruit Tony Soprano into the fucking like a cult.
Yeah.
If he ever found out what you were doing, you would just fucking just disappear. You would just beat you to a fucking inch of your fucking life, and that would be it.
Yeah.
There'd be no reprisal, especially because societally we'd just be like, yeah, that guy got what he deserved.
Yeah.
Fuck him. Probably wouldn't even investigate. Just be like, hey, oh well,
Yeah, probably deserved it.
His head's hamburger now. Oh well, like sucks to be that guy. It's like, you know, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like,
To get a guy like that too, like a, you know, alpha male,
yeah,
a fighter.
Well, he got him at the right moment
Yeah.
when he was vulnerable, and it just illustrates the point that if like you're one of those people, just time and pressure, just like we were talking, right? Like it's just put time and pressure on anyone, no matter how like together they are in a vulnerable state. If you know how to fucking hack that operating system, you can just enthrall people. It's one of the most fascinating things in all of science, the science of cult leadership and how people do that. And it's like really weird it's just really weird to me that more people aren't hip to it. It's like the whole MLM thing. It's like that people just don't understand like how this shit works, and like you think that your situation is unique and special. I think that's the gate out of it, right? Is just realizing like you think everything that you're being told is so profound and everything, but when you realize like, no, it's just totally fucking textbook P.T. Barnum bullshit from like the fucking 1900s, right? Like this is, people have been doing this for a long time, and the playbook's the same across the board.
I'm kind of curious, do they study up on those things, or there's just a natural thing that comes out of these wackadoo people? Like sleep deprivation, like, you know, restricting calories in somebody, put them into the stressful situation.
Yeah, that's what I've always wondered. That's why I wish there was more. It's starting to gain prevalence now, especially in the wake of Nexium. But like,
yeah, because it seemed like that guy read like a textbook on it, how to do it.
A lot of people, yeah, the Nexium guy in particular, it just like a lot of the people, it just seems like they read like a fucking textbook, and they're just following a textbook. I think really what is more likely is that what happens is the same thing with the WeWorks guy and the same thing with the Nexium guy, is what happens is they're involved in some sort of cult previously, and they're not at the top. This is what happens with MLM people, like is why MLMs are basically cults, is they're like what you would consider like a capo. Right? They're a capo, and they see,
I want to be the big boss,
and they see how the system works, and they go, okay, like, but I want to be the Don, right? And I'm going to go and I'm going to start my own crime syndicate, and I'm going to just, you know, if I get on the ground floor, I can be the Don, I can be the top of the pyramid. And so I don't necessarily know that they study up in that regard, but like they have experience with some sort of enterprise like that. That's why none of these guys are ever squeaky clean. If you look into their past, it doesn't matter if it's Nexium or it's Mormonism. The founders of all this shit almost always have some sort of like checkered past about stuff. And that's because that's how they learn it. And the person before them learned it, and the person before them learned it. And somewhere like back in that chain, someone like came up with it. And I don't even know if they necessarily came up with it so much as they just kind of discovered it and fine-tuned it. And so, but yeah, I would think that just knowing a little bit about it would indemnify you against its results. I mean, you really only, what's fucking Stephen Hassan's book called? Anyway, he's the guy that came up with the bite model, right? Like he's still pretty much the premier authority. He's been studying cults since like the 70s. And he's the guy that came up with the bite model, which is like, how do you know when something is a cult? You follow this model. Each of the letters stands for behavioral, informational, thought, and emotional control. And then under each of those umbrellas, there's a whole like just litany of things that is like, this is how you control someone's behavior. This is how you control someone's information. And you just kind of go through, and you could really just tick off all the boxes under each thing. And you just go, okay, I have about an 80% conversion rate here. Probably a fucking cult, right? And so it's really easy to apply the antithesis too when you hear anytime there's like fierce devotion to something, you can say, I'm trying to think of something that's really in vogue. Jordan Peterson fans. People that don't like Jordan Peterson fans, you're like, oh, it's like a cult, right? Like Jordan Peterson's like a cult. And, or objectivism is like a cult. And so it might be like a cult, but when you really go through the bite model and you actually start ticking off, it's like, oh, you can see some of these are kind of on the fence, but it's like out of like 10 possible things in each category, there's 1 or 2, and maybe you can make an argument for a 3, but then it's like a total aggregate score of like 40 out of 100. That probably doesn't meet the threshold for being considered a cult. And if you're prepared to say that that's a cult, then you'd have to say Catholicism is a cult or something like that, right? Which we're just not prepared to do because, you know, they don't limit things in a very stringent way. And so, but severity is a difficult thing to gauge, right? Like outside influence, like if you're trying to cloister somebody and limit their outside influence, the degree to which you do that is the threshold matters for cult status, right? If it's very, very controlled, a la North Korea or something, then you're like, okay, that's these things in spades, and then these things kind of. So it's like you have 6 of the total things, 3 of which are kind of checked and 3 of which are really checked. It's like, okay, that's a pretty hard one on the behavioral control. And so, but yeah, I find myself wondering that all the time, like whether they actually just like sit down and like just do a bunch of fucking, like they're studying for the GMAT or something on how to like build a cult, and then they're just more successful. Then they just establish, it's like marketing, right? Okay, so here's what we want to do. Here's the supernatural gibberish that we're coming up with.
Yeah.
Which there's always some supernatural gibberish, always. I was very happy that I was right about that. And the Nexium thing, there was always some supernatural gibberish. You don't get there with pure rationality. Objectivism comes close, though. And so, like, what's the supernatural gibberish? And then just like, who's our key demographic for this, right? Who are we targeting? Like that
Silicon Valley types.
Yeah, right. Yeah, affluent white people, like, you know, country bumpkins. Who, you know, so we have like, you know, all these, like, so the Silicon Valley types are like,
there's no black dudes in Nexium.
right.
That's kind of weird.
It's because black guys have a cultural like aversion to nonsense.
Hey man, fuck that shit.
Yeah. I don't know about that, man. Yeah, and so that's like, you know, Silicon Valley types have S-tier finances.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're like D-tier lowest common denominator. And you can go for like the Florida country bumpkins. There's a ton of them. They're all over the place. They have no money really to speak of, but aggregately you get a lot of money out of them because there's tons of them. You can influence them much easier, less critical thinking and all that. So it's like you just kind of have to play around with what sort of demand gen you want to do.
Yeah.
Cult recruitment, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of those kind of culty-like things within martial arts, like little charlatans, like they use like the chi energy to fucking disarm people and shit like that. I'm like, fuck, get out of here.
Yeah, it's really always really funny when you see videos of like the chi energy, and then it's because it's a game of play pretend, right? You pretend you have magic, and I pretend the magic floors me. But every now and again, you get somebody that's ignorant of the fact that they're supposed to pretend,
like, oh.
and it's strangely enough, it's because they really believe in it. It's surprisingly not even the ideomotor effect, right? Which usually that's what's happening is it's the ideomotor effect. It's like you expect to be knocked to the floor, so you are. Some person just believes in it firmly and just like goes ends up just like knocking the guy to the ground or something. It's like, well, I thought you were gonna chi me or whatever.
Yeah.
So, no, turns out it doesn't work.
And there's a little bit of that too with they use a lot of buzzwords like biomechanics and all this shit like that. And like there was a perfect example of that with this Instagram page McDojo Life, where they have this guy that does it's like tactical fucking whatever. This guy's from Detroit and he teaches like self-defense and all this other stuff, like how to take a gun away from somebody, how to do all this stuff. It was like, if you took a little bit of time to figure out what's going on, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to sit still while you grab their gun.
Oh, I have a gun.
If you move this way, you don't think they're going to shoot you again? Yeah. They really wanted to shoot you?
Yeah. That's what's funny, is it's like, man, cultiness of all kinds of stuff. They just use vague terminology. That's like, you know, it's a tactic they picked up from quacks like fucking Deepak Chopra and Jordan Peterson are great at.
Quantum.
Yeah, they're great at using mushy language when mushy language is not called for. Energy is the biggest perpetrator of this, both on the pseudoscientific front and the cult front. Is this like you just buy into some vague concept of energy because we all know that energy is a thing, right? But it doesn't mean the same thing that you mean it when you say it. And as a matter of fact, I'm not clear what you mean when you say it because it doesn't seem to jive with this other definition. And that's a classic bait and switch or a conflation fallacy where you conflate two things and use them interchangeably when it suits your
Mott and Bailey.
Yeah, it's what's that fucking guy's name? No, all I can think of is fucking Deepak Chopra. It's the fucking funniest name ever. Stefan Molyneux. You know who this guy is?
I heard the name.
Yeah, so he has this whole like philosophy that he claims is like the holy grail of philosophy, right? It's UPB, universally preferable behavior.
Okay.
And it's hard to keep track of what it is that he's saying, but he seems to be saying that there is a set of guidelines that is universally preferable. So it is an ethical framework across all societies and all times. And so he's trying to strive towards some semblance of objective morality. But in doing that, he's conflating that concept with Kant's hypothetical imperative, which is, so Kant has a categorical imperative, which is an attempt to strive toward objective morality, but it fails in a lot of regards because he just says that basically certain things are inherent in us, right? It is inherently wrong to do X, and that is not very satisfying from a philosophical standpoint to just say that something is inherently wrong because it's inherently wrong. Is self-defeating. But his hypothetical imperative basically just says that if you want X goal, you ought behave in Y way, right? If I want to maximize human flourishing, I ought not kill people, right? So it's like it's a hypothetical imperative. It's not necessarily concrete. And so Molyneux does that. He kind of conflates these two things. It just uses universally preferable behavior. It uses preferable as the old Mott and Bailey to like kind of switch back and forth between them. And it's like, well, that creates all kinds of logistical issues. And how can you say you've invented a philosophy when at best all you've done is stole something from Kant from like a really long time ago?
Yeah.
Right?
No, but he's dead. He's not gonna. He won't care.
Right. And so that guy's like an adult, right?
You can't do that.
You can't do that. But apparently he's a white nationalist too. I didn't know this about him until,
Oh, okay. That's
like,
the icing on the cake right
I was
there.
like, that guy's a white nationalist. But yeah, I mean, it's good that I didn't know that. You know, the whole like, well, you know, trying to contend with his ideas, not like poison the well that he's a white nationalist, so he's trying to figure out some sort of whatever to do.
You will not replace us.
Yeah. But yeah, he's a Canadian, so apparently there's
I'll tell you what, there's a boot.
apparently like that's pretty popular in Canada. Gavin McInnes guy and Lauren Southern, they're kind of white nationalisty.
The Proud Boys guy?
Yeah, he's got like the beard and the glasses.
Yeah, he started Proud Boys.
Yeah, that's with the whole fucking Peppy the Frog bullshit, right? Wasn't that him?
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah. But no, it's just that classic conflation fallacy. It's just question begging too. He does a lot of that where he just kind of embeds like, you know, an argument against universal preferable behavior demonstrates universally preferable behavior. It's like,
what?
Yeah, like it's like, wait, how did you get there? You're basically just assuming the conclusion in one of your premises. That's just classic question begging, right? You're just like, it's circular reasoning. Like it is, you know, it is because it is, right? It's like Chris and I were having this discussion about God a lot, because we were talking about religion and the criticism you hear it a lot from like hardcore apologists, like Christian apologists, and often Muslim apologists, that atheists are constantly trying to disprove God. And it's like, no, we can't do that, because to do that would to accept the premise that God is real, right? To disprove something, you have to accept that first you have to accept that it's real. Otherwise, how can you disprove it? You're just casting doubt and skepticism on it, which is not the same thing as disproving it. Because why would how could I disprove something by accepting first that it exists? It makes no sense. It's a little linguistic jujitsu that people like to do to try to be clever. And you hear it all the time from people like fucking Kirk Cameron guy from what was it? Not Step by Step, Growing Pains.
Yeah.
Yeah. That guy is like a crazy Christian, where he's basically like one of those people that says that that atheists know that God is real, and they're just trying to like undermine his word. Mm-hmm. I'm not exactly sure what the motivation supposedly is, but he's just like, yeah, they know. They fucking know. He doesn't say fucking because he's super Christian.
They freaking know.
They freaking know, eh? I don't think he's Canadian though. But it's like, man, like, why? It's like the fucking flat earth conspiracy, man. It's like, why would you do that? Like, what would you possibly stand to gain by knowing that God is real and then just like seeking to undermine that he's real? Why would that be a thing that you would do? I mean, it just make life so much easier if it was like, oh yeah, it's a totally real thing, and I just would never have to think about it again. Or, but yeah, it's the same thing. It's just word games, right? Where it's like, let's just try to scramble the meaning of energy so that it can mean that I have magic powers. Because it's a real thing in physics, so you can't deny that it's real.
Yeah, yeah, the whole thing with like the quantum thing and quantum thinking, because like people really don't understand what that is, but they just try to like anchor it in some way, the big mystery of the universe. Yeah. No one really knows what it is, but it happens anyway, whether you believe it or not.
Right, an argument from incredulity, right? You can't, I don't know what causes X, therefore God causes X, or therefore quantum mechanics, or therefore energy causes X. It's like, well, just because you don't know what it is doesn't mean that your theory... There's another word that gets thrown around like uselessly too. It's like, well, it's just a theory, evolution. It's like, I don't think you know what that word means. I don't think you understand what a theory is scientifically. It's not just like, you think it means hypothesis, a guess. It's a guess. I'm just guessing at what this is. Nope, that's
not. Educated guess.
Educated guess. It's like, it either happened.
It's not a law.
Yeah, fuck, man. I told you about that conversation with fucking Ben, didn't I? It's like, the thing is that's startling to me is that, like, I am not a fucking science guy.
Well, don't listen to him, guys. We're just here smoking cigars, fried a cryo vein without your science degree, and I don't have a science degree.
I don't know fucking anything about science. And when I encounter somebody who speaks with more confidence about things in the scientific realm, and I can point out, like, very simply, like, how you're just patently wrong, and without even trying to be rude. Like, I wasn't trying to be rude to him or, like, put him in his place. He was like, yeah, but it's not like, it's a theory. It's not a law. It hasn't been upgraded to a law. And I was just like, seriously? And he's like, yeah, no, like, it hasn't been upgraded to a law. It's still just a theory. I'm like, you do know the difference between those two things, right? They're not like, it's not a hierarchy. One is an observation. Yeah. And one is a description, right? It's the same. It's the Hume's guillotine, right? You can't get a descriptive thing you can't get a prescriptive thing from a descriptive action, right? It's why you can never, there is ought fallacy. You can never say that an amalgam of observations can ever lead to a suggested course of behavior morally, because you're just observing that these things are, and they're not in any way like a commentary on what ought to be. And it's the same thing he was doing. Is like, dude, this thing observes that gravity is a thing. Doesn't explain how gravity works. It just observes that it is a thing. That's a law. And a theory explains the mechanism by which it happened. Gravity is a good example, because we had two theories of gravity. one is Newton's, and one
Magnets.
is Einstein's.
Oh, what?
And the second one encompasses the first one. It doesn't trump it. It's not like Newton's no longer relevant. Like, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. We'll throw out all the science that he did. He's a dipshit. It's like, okay, I guess that doesn't make any sense, but fine. It was startling to me. It's like, wow, you don't know how these things work. How do you get by without knowing how things? Just a cursory like understanding of like some very low level shit that like my elementary brain can comprehend and process, and have just picked up by accident, by not even studying this shit. I just picked it up by accident, like a rolling stone picking up dirt. It sticks in there somehow, and I go, okay, it makes sense. And oh, I don't know. What do you mean? Well, you know, all right, man, fucking whatever, dude. I guess. Anyway, no, you reminded me of my my other news story, which is, so remember the whole net neutrality thing?
Yeah.
It's like back in 2014, 2015, something like that. So apparently the New York State Attorney General did an investigation of the public response to Congress about the net neutrality bill, and discovered that like 83% of the comments that were posted to the FCC's website are fake. Just they were just generated by one of the two interest groups. And I was a little disappointed in the Wall Street Journal because they mentioned that it came from both sides, but then they just proceeded to like kind of illuminate the things that came from like, you know, big internet or whatever. Like all like the ways in which big internet had like an influence on the
telcos. They're like, yeah, they like it. We like having no net neutrality.
Yeah, so it's which, you know,
of course, why wouldn't we pay more for all this stuff that we're getting for free already?
Right, but there is a reasoned argument to be made in opposition to net neutrality, but I don't understand the moving parts well enough to really make that case. But just in general, that there is market incentives for internet service providers to not treat all packages equal, and that there is some reasoned cases to be made that that would not necessarily get better results for consumers. But it's also overlaid with a complication that it kind of creates other problems, like the same thing with, well, it's essentially the same problem that capitalism has. It's like you can allow a free market to go to work, but then you have to accept that in a free market, some entities will become the Amazons and the alphabets of the world, and then they will be able to orchestrate things. They will be able to, like, you know, control,
like duopolies.
Right. They'll be able to control suppliers, and they'll be able to like lobby Washington, and they'll be able to like fight lawsuits that like nobody else would. You know, the cost of doing business for like a small company in a competitive market that gets sued for $2-3 million is like devastating. But for a multi-conglomerate fucking Tyrell Corporation, it's just like, that's just a cost of doing business, whatever. Monsanto don't fucking give a fuck.
Yeah.
And so you have to accept that that's like the cost of capitalism. But it's like, okay, so what do we do about that? And there's a similar argument to be made for net neutrality. But they didn't really detail any of the like people that were for net neutrality and their lobbying efforts and their ability to control all these comments. But yeah, something like just an absurd amount of the comments. It was something like 83% of just like millions of comments or something like that. It was like, wow, that's... And it gave no indicator that there is going to be anything done about that other than just like, yeah, it's just like it was all fake news. Like, most people probably didn't understand this well enough to even care, let alone comment. They said something like 40% of like comments from like one side came from like one fucking dude.
Oh wow.
That was like just basically just paid to sit in a room and like program stuff that generated like all these comments. And like, yeah, that's really weird. Didn't really get into the science of like how they investigated it and teased out, but that was probably above my head anyway. But I thought it was interesting because I remember when that was all the hoopla on the internet. Ironically, you're not allowed to see this. You're not allowed to see it. But anyway, that derailed us from whatever we were talking about. Cult gibberish. I think that petered out.
Yeah. I think that's okay. Let's go back to circle around the cigar. It's pretty much the same. Still tasty.
Yeah, it's starting to pick up steam. It's just like a kind of. It just reminds me of like what you always describe that hot pot like. Like it's the same flavor, but it just gets like more intense as you get down to the bottom of the pot.
It's like hot lava, but it's so good. Yeah,
it's like sucking on a bouillon cube.
Yeah,
but yeah, it just gets more. Everything about it just gets more and more pronounced and concentrated the closer you get. It's like
All right, I think that does it. You got anything else?
No, I think that pretty much has concluded the rant for this week.
All right, that does it for this week, peoples. Don't throw phones at people when they're sleeping. It's not good.
Talking to one person in particular.
Well, I'm just saying it's a nice journal thing to tell people, right? It's not fair.
Listen better.
Don't have to tell you twice now, all right?
No. It was. I just thought the victim blaming. It was like, wow, that's like literal victim blaming. Yeah, well, what'd you do? It's like, yep, that's.
This is a joke.
To be fair, like, fucking, yeah, I probably deserve it in some way. Some way, I'm sure. In some
you're like a battered housewife now.
In some abstract way, I'm sure I just did something.
It's my fault. I should have not burnt the food.
You know what? Like, if it was like once every 4 years, or 4 to 5 years, I had this happen. Like, I'll still take this relationship over any other relationship I had. Like, unequivocally. Like, if it's like, oh, yeah, like, it's just once every 4 years, just gonna you almost lose enough blood.
It's never right to hit somebody. No, throw objects at people.
Yeah, I never said it was right. I just said I'll take it over the alternative.
Like I said, blink twice if you need a way out. I can't tell.
Yeah, I'm just having like a facial tick now. I might have nerve damage.
I think I brained my damage.
I think I brained my damage.
All right. Be safe, everybody. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Mikey and the Press Pass podcast. Consider subscribing. You can rate and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere where you can listen to podcasts. And you can also write us with any ideas, suggestions, or horrible burning criticism at mikeyandthepresspass@gmail.com. Thank you.